Alright kids, it's time for a history lesson. A lesson about this wacky zany character called Pico. Who is he? What is he all about? Why is he in that game everybody's buzzing about? Well, don't worry. I'm here to explain it all. So hold on tight to this bumpy ride. Let's start from the very beginning. Pico first appeared in a game called Pico School, back in 1999, made by some weak nerd called Tom Fulp. It was revolutionary in these prehistoric times. He made another game featuring Pico called Pico vs. the Uber Kids, which was this rock, paper, and scissors game also featuring some other characters called Darnell and Nene. Ever since then, Pico has been a mascot of sorts for Tom Fulp's website called Newgrounds, most importantly appearing in the vote section of the website, with a famous quote, "Blam this piece of crap!" Anyways, Tom Fulp was planning on making a sequel for Pico School called Pico School 2, but it never came to be. Maybe one day, probably not. Next, you'll notice the MAC-10 or Uzi or whatever that gun Pico has. What's up with that? Where'd he get that? Because in Pico School, he has some kind of automatic rifle, not a submachine gun. Well, that's from the animation done by Mindchamber called Pico Reloaded, where Pico guns down a bunch of clones called the Uber Kids from the Pico vs. the Uber Kids game. It was an action-packed cartoon, and it made that gun he has the preferred weapon he possesses all the time. After that, in 2006, there was an event called Pico Day, where other creators made Pico and other Newgrounds related content. That's why all my Pico cartoons have a Pico Day and year in the title. Let me talk a bit about the Pico cartoons I made. Pico Day always had cash prizes, and I wanted in on that. So that's why I made those cartoons. For money. And I won once. Pico's catfight net me $50. Yippee. After that, I made Pico and Me. This time out of love for Newgrounds, since there was no cash prizes for animation. And I know people are complaining about, why doesn't Pico have his gun? He should have shot the bully. Well, I just want to make Pico a normal school kid in this one. You know, you can make Pico anything you want in Pico Day, and that's what I decided to do. Alright, so leave me alone. Anyways, I didn't make a Pico Day cartoon for 2020 because I wasn't motivated for it. Because over the years, Newgrounds has declined, and Pico became more and more irrelevant to the point where if there was consideration in changing the name Pico Day and calling it something else. But ever since the release of that one game people are currently crazy over, he's back to relevancy again. Will Newgrounds be relevant itself? Probably not with the way it's run. But hey, that's a story for another day. Anyways, that's the history of Pico. Goodbye!